This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our friends over at the Home of Medicine Medical Marijuana Dispensary of Ann Arbor, Michigan. If you're lucky enough to live in the Ann Arbor area, you owe it to yourself to swing by the Home of Medicine to see what everyone is talking about. You'll come for the great selection and price and stay for the service and care shown by the folks at the Home of Medicine. Swing over to the homeofmedicine.org to learn more. That's omofmedicine.org. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Wednesday, May 3rd, 2017, and you're tuned in to episode 238 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. Our top story of the day is the big news that broke late yesterday that the Vermont State House of Representatives voted in favor of a bill legalizing adult use marijuana by a count of 74 to 68. The vote on House Bill 170 was for the second of three necessary rounds of votes required before a vote is considered fully passed, with the third and final reading and vote expected to come later this week. Since the Vermont State Senate has passed a similar bill to the one approved by the State House, if the House version stands up to its final vote, some kind of compromise bill will be crafted and sent on to the desk of Governor Phil Scott. House Bill 170 would legalize the cultivation and possession of small amounts of marijuana by adults of age and would mark the first time legalization is passed by legislative efforts. The bill would not, however, set up a commercial marijuana system. Swing over to Weed News for the full read on this one. Canadian licensed medical marijuana provider Hydropothecary Corporation just announced that they would be stopping the sale of all of their medical marijuana products after a Health Canada contamination test turned up the presence of the banned fungicide myclobutanil, which can turn into a harmful gas when heated up. The company began testing all of their products in February and discovered the malignant batch of products just on May 1st from cannabis that was sampled back at the beginning of March. The company says they're investigating the source of the contamination and that they're working closely with Health Canada to solve the problem. Our final top story of the day is a nice roundup of yesterday's fiscal second quarter earnings call by gardening giant Scots Miracle-Gro, who regular listeners know have been making a big push in the last few years to establish themselves in the world of marijuana cultivation. During yesterday's call, CEO Jim Hagdorn expressed his confidence in their position in the hydroponics market when he said, quote, "We intend to succeed in that space. I would say to anyone who wants to rumble with us, come on, let's do this," unquote. Hagdorn went on to talk about his company's appetite for acquisitions, with more slated to be announced later this year that will solidify their footing in legal cannabis cultivation. This is another good one to click over for the full dive in. As always, we have all the news we cover linked to on our website at mjtodaydaily.com and on our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out on headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, the Home of Medicine Medical Marijuana Dispensary of Ann Arbor, Michigan, for their ongoing support. If you're in the legal marijuana industry and find yourself in Ann Arbor, do whatever you can to schedule a little time to visit Home. The Home of Medicine's owners, Mark and Keith, will be more than happy to give you a tour and talk about what's going on in their dispensary that day. Soak in their smartly designed decor and created environment and watch how their well-hired and trained staff interact with their patients. It's like a master class in dispensary operations in 20 minutes or less. You can do a little research ahead of your time in Ann Arbor by opening up omofmedicine.org. That's omofmedicine.org. And by following them on Facebook and Twitter. All right, time for the Blitz. More big money deals up in Canada, with licensed medical marijuana provider Aurora Cannabis just announcing their raise of $75 million Canadian through the use of unsecured convertible debt. The company says it will use the proceeds of the round to fund expansion in both the Canadian and international markets. Tom Angel over Mass Roots has a good piece up about a small provision within the compromise budget bill being pushed through the U.S. Congress to fund government operations through September 30th that would further impede the ability of Washington, D.C.'s city government to further embrace more progressive marijuana laws. As longtime DC watchers know, the U.S. Congress exercises an inordinate amount of power in how the local DC government runs their city, something prohibitionists in the House of Representatives have taken advantage of in recent years by restricting the ability of the DC City Council to spend money on legalizing marijuana. As Tom is reporting, a short provision within the new budget bill would further erode DC's legalization ambitions by tightening up even further their ability to fund legalization efforts. This is a good story to click over for the full nuance. Clark County, Nevada is officially accepting applications as of today to open up adult use dispensaries for next year's summer launch of their legal adult use market. In New Hampshire, the state Senate Judiciary Committee approved a bill that would decriminalize marijuana, sending it to the floor of the Senate for a vote by the body at large. The proposed measure would remove criminal penalties for the possession of up to 3/4 of an ounce of marijuana and up to 5 grams of hash. Yesterday, the Florida State House voted by a count of 105-9 to approve a proposed bill expanding the state's medical marijuana system as mandated by last November's successful ballot initiative. The newly passed legislation would expand the number of licensed cultivators from 7 to 17 while allowing for an unlimited number of dispensaries statewide. The Florida State Senate will take up debate today on their own version of the bill, which is more restrictive in its expansion of licensing. We'll follow along as that whole scene rolls out. The nation of Uruguay opened up registration for its legal marijuana program for the first time yesterday. The government-run program allows registered Uruguayans to buy cannabis at state-licensed pharmacies at the low price of around $1.30 a gram. That puts the price of an eighth of marijuana at just over $4.50. Our final story of the day has us wrapping up in New Jersey, where outgoing disgraced Governor Chris Christie said on Monday that he thought the idea of legalizing marijuana was, quote, beyond stupidity, unquote. Considering Governor Christie's track record when it comes to making good decisions, this is actually a pretty strong endorsement of the wisdom of legalizing marijuana. NJ.com pulled together a good piece highlighting the positions on marijuana held by the people most likely to take the governor's job when he slides out of office next January. Another good one to click over if you're interested in Garden State cannabis politics. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again tomorrow morning with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our Twitter account at mjtodaydaily and visit our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. What's one of the advantages of living in Switzerland? Well, the flag is a big plus. Thanks to our sponsor, the Ohm of Medicine, and to all of our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. Special shout out today to some of our new patron listeners like Nicholas, Mark, Stacy, Betty, Kevin, Craig, Brian, Mary, Trent, David, and the UNLV chapter of Students for Sensible Drug Policy. You are all awesome people. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in, starting your day with marijuana today.
One take, Shay. One take.